Good day, strikers. Today I'm going to discuss about the case of Angel was been froze to death. Susan Cadieux was born on December 21, 1950, in London, Ontario, Canada. She lived with her parents, Walter and Gabrielle, and her older brothers, Patrick and Michael. On the evening of January 6, 1956, 5-year-old Susan was playing outside of St. Mary's Catholic Church, right across the street from her house. She was accompanied by her brothers, 10-year-old Michael and 9-year-old Patrick, who attended the adjoining school. Their upstairs neighbor, 12-year-old Virginia Cadieux, was also with them. At about 7:45 p.m., a man approached the children, paying particular attention to Susan. He told them he had an appointment with the church's pastor, Father Wilfred O'Rourke, at 9 p.m. in the rectory. The unnamed man was between 30 to 40 years old. He was white, tall, thin, and unshaven. The man was wearing a light brown overcoat, unbuckled black galoshes, and a Russian-style hat with ear flaps. At one point, Virginia fell on the ice a few feet away. Michael and Patrick went over to help her up. The man took advantage of this and led Susan away. As the two left, she called out to her brothers and friend, "This man is going to give me something." The children ran home to tell an adult. Susan's mother immediately contacted the police. Despite what the man had told the children, Father O'Rourke did not have an appointment with anyone that night. He theorized that the man was one of the many homeless people who came to the church for money. Father O'Rourke made a broadcast over local radio, pleading that the abductor please call me and tell me where Susan can be found. CFPL radio station did an overnight broadcast, appealing for volunteers to help with the search. By 1:30 a.m., over 300 people were searching for Susan and her abductor. Shortly after 10 a.m. the next day, Susan's body was found at a warehouse yard of the Ray James Construction and Farm Supply Company, less than 10 minutes away from where she had been abducted. She was lying on her back with one of her arms thrown across a railway track. Her underclothing had been torn and she was missing a pair of blue jeans that she had been wearing under a snowsuit. Susan had been sexually assaulted and died from exposure. Notably, she had tears frozen to her face. It is estimated that she died less than 3 hours before being found. During the previous year of 1955, 10 London girls had been sexually assaulted. Susan was the only fatal attack. London residents were naturally outraged over Susan's death and pledged a $1,000 reward for the capture of the perpetrator. One of the most exhaustive manhunts in the area took place and over 20 detectives were assigned to the case. Nevertheless, the man has never been caught. In 2000, authorities revealed they had a suspect. Alexander Cadieux was a Royal Canadian Air Force sergeant who had been stationed at bases around southwestern Ontario. He had a history of sexual offenses and died of alcoholism in 1975. Cadieux is also a person of interest in the 1959 rape and murder of 12-year-old Lynn Harper in Ontario. Notably, her 14-year-old schoolmate Stephen Truscott was wrongly sentenced to death for the crime. He was able to get his death sentence commuted but spent 10 years in prison. According to Father O'Rourke, the teachings of the Roman Catholic Church hold that Susan was incapable of sin because of how young she was and thus was sent to heaven. A Mass was held at St. Mary's Church on January 9, during which Father O'Rourke reflected on the incident. Degenerates, like mad dogs, are allowed to roam our streets at will. When are these people going to be given the treatment they need and placed where they can do no harm? He also condemned contemporary books, magazines, stage plays, movies, and TV programs, which he said encouraged licentiousness. Murder suspect died 25 years ago. CBC TV says an Air Force sergeant who died 25 years ago is now a suspect in 2 old murder cases. The man's name surfaced last week in the Fifth Estate documentary on Stephen Truscott, the man convicted in the murder of Lynn Harper, near Clinton, in the late 1950s. The Fifth Estate says Alexander Kalakiuk was overlooked as a suspect in that murder. In last night's program, the CBC said the police now consider Kalakiuk a suspect in the death of Susan Cadieux, a 5-year-old girl from London who was sexually assaulted and then froze to death one night in January of 1956. The police also say Kalakiuk is being investigated again for another murder in which he was the original suspect. However, investigators have not released the name of the victim in that case. The Fifth Estate reported that Sergeant Kalakiuk had a history of sexual offenses dating from 1950. He was stationed at bases in southwestern Ontario and he died in 1975. Susan Cadieux's deadly attack has been unsolved for 64 years. Her parents and Susan Cadieux's deadly attack has been unsolved for 64 years. Her parents and brothers have passed away. Unsolved case of Susan Cadieux.